I still remember the exact moment when my whole world collapsed. Not with a bang, but with a simple notification. A quiet, little ping from my husband's phone. He was in the shower. I wasn't the kind of wife who snooped. 18 years of marriage had built what I thought was unshakable trust. But that evening, something felt different. Logan had been distant for months. Late nights at the office, weekend conferences, an unusual obsession with his grooming. All the cliches. I tried to ignore it until I saw his phone light up on the nightstand. A message preview from his assistant. Reservation confirmed at Alara for Friday 8 p.m. She'll love the private booth. I shouldn't have opened his phone. I knew it was wrong. But something primal took over. An instinct that tells you when your life is about to split apart. My fingers moved before I could stop them, typing in the passcode, our wedding anniversary. Ironically, what I found wasn't just a dinner reservation, it was an entire secret life. Messages, photos, plans for a future that didn't include me. Her name was Sienna. She worked in his architecture firm's PR division. Younger, of course, gorgeous, of course, and married too. I sat there clutching his phone, unable to breathe properly. 18 years of marriage, our Manhattan apartment, the friends we'd built together, our shared dreams, all of it now felt like a lie. "Isla, have you seen my navy tie?" Logan called from the bathroom, his voice so casual, so everyday, as if he hadn't just detonated our life message by message. I placed his phone exactly where I found it, hands trembling. "It's in the second drawer," I replied. My voice sounded steady. I had no idea how. Inside, I was screaming. That night, I lay beside him, listening to his peaceful breathing, battling the urge to shake him awake and demand answers. But something stopped me. Pride maybe, or a deeper instinct. One that whispered there was a better way to respond to this betrayal than some messy, emotional showdown where he'd just lie anyway. The next morning, I kissed him goodbye like nothing had changed. "Good luck with your presentation today," I said, fully aware there was no presentation, just another day of lies. After he left, I called in sick to my position at the college, where I lectured in behavioral economics. Then I did something I'd never done before. I started investigating my own husband. It wasn't hard. Logan had grown sloppy, too sure of my trust. His email password hadn't changed in years. His calendar revealed everything, including the special dinner he'd arranged for Friday night at Alara, one of the most exclusive spots in Chicago. A dinner he'd claimed was with a client that morning. Then I found something else. Sienna's full name, Sienna Blake, buried in an email thread. A quick search led me to her husband, Jordan Blake, a tall, striking man who ran a successful landscape design firm in downtown Chicago. My initial reaction was to call him right away, but I stopped myself. A dramatic phone call would only give them time to cover their tracks, rewrite the narrative, spin more lies. No, this called for something else. Something calculated, something they wouldn't see coming. I remember sitting at the kitchen counter, coffee cold in my mug, when the idea took full shape. If Logan wanted a grand dinner at Alara, he'd get one, with a twist. I let out a short, strange laugh that echoed through the same kitchen where Logan had once promised me loyalty, where we had talked about children we never had, about plans for a future now crumbling before my eyes. "You want dinner, Logan?" I whispered. "I'll give you a dinner you'll never forget." That's when I picked up the phone and called Alara. The maitre d' was wonderfully accommodating. Yes, there was another table available Friday night. Yes, I could request a table close to the private booth already booked under Logan's corporate account. I explained it was a business dinner and hoped the proximity would allow for potential mingling later. He understood perfectly. My hands trembled slightly as I clicked send on the email to Jordan. This wasn't just strategy, it was a step toward reclaiming my voice. A quiet, trembling act of defiance wrapped in professional politeness. For the first time in days, I felt the sting of clarity, controlled, sharp, and utterly necessary. Next, I needed to get in touch with Jordan Blake, without raising any flags. Thankfully, my role as a professor offered the perfect pretext. I composed a professional email inviting him to participate in our university's executive guest lecture series, praising his innovative green space design work and suggesting we discuss the opportunity over dinner. "I already had a reservation at Alara on Friday," I said. Would that suit his schedule? His reply came within hours. Polite, interested and fully available. He had no idea that his wife would be at the same restaurant that night, cozied up with my husband in a private booth just one table away. As I closed my laptop, something shifted inside me. The paralyzing shock had begun to crystallize into something else, something cold, steady, and razor-focused. For 18 years, I had been the model wife. Supportive, forgiving, endlessly patient. I had built my world around our marriage. Meanwhile, Logan had been constructing a parallel life, made of lies and betrayals. Friday night would change everything, for all of us. The 3 days leading up to Friday were the longest of my life. I moved through them like a ghost in my own home, observing Logan with a clarity I'd never allowed myself before. How had I not seen it sooner? The way he snuck glances at his phone when he thought I wasn't watching. The quiet phone calls taken in the study. The subtle switch in his cologne. His upgraded wardrobe. "I've got that client dinner Friday night," he said offhandedly over breakfast Thursday morning. "Don't wait up. These things always run late." I nodded, calmly buttering my toast. "That big merger?" "Exactly," he replied, visibly relieved at how easily I accepted the lie. "Probably just boring corporate talk all evening." "I might go out myself," I offered, as if it had only just occurred to me. A colleague mentioned grabbing dinner. He barely acknowledged it. His eyes were glued to his screen again. "That's nice, honey." 18 years of marriage, and he couldn't even pretend to be interested in my plans for half a minute. Had it always been like this? Or had I been so determined to protect our pristine image that I'd edited out his apathy? There had been signs, of course. Quiet ones. The forgotten anniversaries. The distant conversations. The way I buried myself in work during the years I should have been fighting for us. I told myself it was just a phase, that all marriages settled. But deep down, maybe I hadn't wanted to look too closely. Maybe part of me was afraid of what I'd find. That evening, I found myself in the walk-in closet, staring at my reflection. I was 45 now, still attractive by most standards. My chestnut hair showed only a few strands of silver. My figure was lean, thanks to decades of Pilates and clean eating. But I wasn't Sienna, with her 30-year-old ease and youthful glow. I traced the fine lines beside my eyes, wondering, just for a moment, if this was the reason Logan had strayed. I shut that thought down instantly. This wasn't about age. This wasn't about some flaw in me. This was about Logan's arrogance, his entitlement, his total disregard for the promises we made. I had given him everything, stood by him through career changes, moved across the country for his job offers, cared for his mother through her cancer battle. I had forgiven things I shouldn't have. Late nights, missed birthdays, emotional absences during my darkest hours. And now, Friday had arrived, with a strange and brutal clarity. I dressed carefully for my business dinner, a navy blue sheath dress, professional yet flattering. Pearl earrings Logan had given me for our 10th anniversary. And the red-soled heels I rarely wore, mostly because Logan once said they made me look like I was trying too hard. I left work early to get my hair done, just a subtle change. Softer waves to frame my face. The stylist mentioned how calm I seemed. If only she knew the storm I was holding back. At home, I packed a small overnight bag and tucked it in the trunk of my car. Whatever happened tonight, I wasn't coming back to sleep under the same roof as Logan. Then I drove to Alara, arriving 30 minutes before my reservation. The maitre d' recognized me right away, his tone conspiratorial from our phone conversation. He showed me the layout, my table positioned with perfect sightlines to the private booth where Logan would soon be sitting with Sienna. From their angle, they wouldn't immediately notice me unless they scanned the room. "Your other guest has already called to confirm. He's on his way," the maitre d' informed me. I settled at the bar with a martini, eyes glued to the entrance. Logan arrived first, 15 minutes early, visibly tense, his nerves showing in the way he adjusted his jacket and checked his watch. He looked sharp in his best suit, the one I'd helped him pick out for high-stakes boardroom meetings. He was led to the private booth. 10 minutes later, she arrived. Sienna was everything I expected, and everything I feared. Young, beautiful, confident, she wore a fitted crimson dress and walked like a woman who had never once questioned whether she belonged. Logan stood as she approached. His face transformed, softened into something almost boyish. He took her hands and leaned in for a kiss that lingered far too long. What cut deepest wasn't just the kiss, it was the joy. The way he looked at her. The way he seemed alive. A version of him I hadn't seen in years. Ela Bennett? I turned to see Jordan Blake standing beside me. Early 40s, strong features, relaxed posture, salt and pepper hair at the temples, kind eyes, a man who had clearly aged with grace. "Mr. Blake," I said, offering my hand. "Thank you so much for meeting on such short notice." "Please call me Jordan." His handshake was warm, firm. "The pleasure's mine. Your lecture series sounds intriguing, if he only knew." The maître d' reappeared, ready to escort us to the table. The table with the unobstructed view of Logan and Sienna, now nestled comfortably into their booth, hands intertwined across the white linen tablecloth. As Jordan and I sat down, I tried to focus on the dinner, on the fake narrative I'd created for this meeting. But my gaze kept drifting to the booth, where Logan was now uncorking champagne, leaning in to whisper something that made Sienna laugh, head thrown back, completely unbothered. "So," Jordan said, unfolding his napkin, "tell me about this executive series." His napkin sat untouched. "The architecture economics crossover is fascinating," he said. I forced my attention back to him, launching into a well-rehearsed explanation about interdisciplinary education, all while my peripheral vision picked up Logan's hand now resting on Sienna's bare knee under the table. "Isla?" Jordan's voice cut through my fog. "Are you all right? You seem a bit—" "I'm fine," I said quickly, reaching for my water glass. "Just a little tired. End-of-semester pressure." He nodded with sympathy and began telling me about his latest project, a sustainable apartment complex in the West Loop. He was passionate, articulate, and completely unaware that his wife, 20 feet away, was feeding my husband a bite of her appetizer with flirtatious ease. "I've been talking too much," he said with a sheepish smile. "Tell me about your work." As I began outlining my recent research, I noticed Sienna excuse herself from their table. A bathroom break, no doubt. This was my moment. "Would you excuse me for just a moment?" I asked Jordan, who immediately stood as I got up. I didn't have a script or a plan, but my feet carried me directly into Sienna's path as she returned from the restroom. The moment our eyes met, something flickered. Recognition. She'd clearly seen photos of me at Logan's office. "You're Logan's wife," she said quietly, almost a whisper. "And you're Jordan's," I replied, tipping my head toward our table, where Jordan still sat, kindly oblivious. The color drained from her perfectly made-up face. Looking back now, I realize I'd been preparing for this confrontation since the second I read that text on Logan's phone. But what happened next? That wasn't something even I could have scripted. "Please," Sienna whispered, eyes flitting between me and Jordan across the room. "Not here." "Why not here?" I asked, my voice steady. "Seems like the perfect backdrop. Gorgeous ambiance, soft lighting, you've clearly been enjoying it." Her manicured hand reached out, gripping my forearm. "Ela, I can explain." "Can you?" I gently removed her hand. "Can you explain why you're having an affair with my husband? Can you explain why you're betraying that man over there, who has no idea he's being played right now?" Her eyes began to shine with tears. "It's complicated." "It always is, isn't it?" I said, voice soft with tired disappointment. "Love, marriage, loyalty, such complicated things." Over her shoulder, I could see Logan had noticed us. The color was gone from his face. He'd half risen from the booth, frozen, clearly unsure whether to intervene or disappear. "What do you want?" Sienna asked, a tremor in her voice. The question caught me off guard. What did I want? Revenge? Justice? To make them feel the depth of betrayal they'd inflicted on us? "I want honesty," I said finally. "Something that's been missing from my marriage for longer than I realized." I glanced back at Jordan, who was now watching us with a puzzled expression from across the restaurant. "Your husband seems like a good man. Does he deserve this?" Sienna's face crumpled. "No," she whispered, "he doesn't." "Neither did I replied softly. Just then Logan appeared behind her, his face a twisted mask of panic. "Isla, what are you doing here?" "Having dinner," I said simply. "Just like you." "This isn't," he began. "What it looks like," I finished for him. "Logan, please, we're well past that point." Jordan approached, confusion plain on his face. "Isla, is everything okay? Do you know these people?" Time seemed to freeze. I saw Logan silently pleading with me. Sienna, wide-eyed and pale, stood like a ghost. I realized in that moment I held all the power. I could scream, cry, throw water in someone's face. I could blow up their entire lie right here and now. But over the past few days, something else had started forming inside me. A deeper understanding. It wasn't grace that held me back. It was exhaustion. Bone-deep, soul-level weariness from carrying the truth alone. I didn't want to destroy them. I just wanted it to end. I wanted to stop performing, stop pretending, and force the truth into the open, where it could no longer hide. The most devastating response wasn't chaos, it was control. "Jordan," I said calmly, "I'd like you to meet my husband, Logan Bennett." His expression shifted. Confusion gave way to alarm, then to dawning recognition as his gaze turned to Sienna, trembling beside Logan. "And I believe you already know Sienna," I added quietly. The moment hit him like a blow. "Sienna," he said, his voice cracking. She couldn't meet his eyes. "Michael, I?" "How long?" he asked, voice hollow. No one answered. The silence told him everything. I had imagined this scene so many times, expecting a surge of satisfaction as their lies exploded in front of them. But what I felt now was something else, a deep, weary sadness. Watching Jordan's heartbreak was like watching a replay of my own. "Perhaps we should take this conversation somewhere more private," I said, aware of the stares from nearby tables. Logan finally found his voice. "Isla, listen, we need to talk about this." "We certainly do," I agreed. "But not here. And not just the two of us." The maitre d' approached, sensing something was off. "Is everything all right with your dining experience?" I smiled, polite and composed. "Actually, we've had a change of plans. Would it be possible to combine our 2 reservations? It seems the 4 of us need to have a conversation." The poor man looked between us, his professional demeanor hiding the discomfort in his eyes. "Of course, madam. Right this way." He led us to a private dining room, away from the curious stares, and quickly arranged a table for 4. "I'll give you a few moments with the menus," he said before backing out and closing the door behind him. We sat in painful silence, Logan and Sienna on one side, Jordan and I on the other. The symbolism wasn't lost on any of us. "How did you know?" Logan finally asked me. "Does it matter?" I replied. "I suppose not," he said quietly. Jordan had yet to speak. His eyes were locked on Sienna. "Were you ever going to tell me?" he asked her at last. Sienna's mascara had begun to streak down her cheeks. "I don't know," she whispered. "That's the thing about affairs," I said softly. "They live in a fantasy bubble, no real choices, no accountability. That bubble only bursts when reality forces its way in." Logan looked at me, almost surprised. "You're being very calm about this. What did you expect, Logan? That I'd throw a drink in your face? Scream? Create a scene so you could label me unstable? Hysterical?" He had the decency to look ashamed. "I've had 3 days to process this," I continued. 3 days to replay 18 years of our marriage, to trace back every moment you chose a lie over honesty." 3 days? Sienna's head snapped up. "You've known for 3 days, and you planned all this? This ambush?" I turned toward her. "Yes, and do you know what's fascinating? In those 3 days, neither of you noticed a thing. Logan, you came home every night, kissed me on the cheek, asked how my day was without listening to the answer. Just like always. You looked me in the eye and told me you had a client dinner tonight. Not a flicker of guilt." "I didn't want to hurt you," Logan said weakly. Jordan let out a short, bitter laugh. "That's rich. You didn't want to hurt her while you were sleeping with my wife." A knock at the door interrupted the tension. The waiter entered with water and bread, quickly setting them down before retreating in silence, clearly sensing the atmosphere. I had planned this confrontation carefully, reserved the restaurant, coordinated with Jordan, chosen the timing down to the minute. But what I hadn't anticipated was the weight of it all once it actually unfolded. Every word felt like peeling off a scab I'd kept covered for years. But the truth, no matter how raw, had finally found air to breathe. The crushing gravity of every lie, the slow, aching realization that my marriage had been built on something far more hollow than I'd ever dared to believe. "What happens now?" Sienna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I reached into my purse and pulled out a key card. "I've booked a room at the hotel across the street," I said, sliding the key onto the table. "For myself," I clarified. "I won't be sleeping in our bed tonight, Logan." His face twisted, stunned. "Isla." "No," I cut him off. "I'm not done. For 18 years, I've been the accommodating wife, the cheerleader, The partner who stepped back and reorganized her life so you could chase every career opportunity that came your way. I forgave your absences. I believed every excuse. That ends tonight. I placed the room key on the table and stood up. Jordan, I said, turning to him gently, I'm truly sorry you had to find out this way. You didn't deserve this. Jordan gave a slow nod, still processing everything. His eyes locked on Sienna, his entire reality freshly cracked open. Logan, I continued, I'll be at my sister's place for the weekend. When I return Monday, I expect you to be gone. Take what you need for now. We'll work out the rest later. You're throwing me out? He asked, incredulous. No, Logan. You threw yourself out the moment you decided our marriage vows were optional. Then I turned to Sienna. He's all yours now. No more sneaking around. No more thrill of the forbidden. Just the reality of a man who walks away from his commitments the second they become inconvenient. With that, I walked toward the door. I paused with my hand on the handle. Oh, and dinner's on Logan's corporate card, I added. You both seem to be familiar with how that works. I walked out of Alara with my head high, past my car in the valet queue, and crossed the street to the Grand Meridian Hotel. Only when I reached my room, a luxury king suite with a stunning view of the Chicago skyline, something I'd splurged on just for myself, did I finally allow the pain to surface. Not soft tears, not quiet, graceful sobbing. No, these were gut-wrenching, body-shaking cries that came from somewhere buried deep inside me. Years of swallowed pain, of bending and accommodating and hoping. I cried for the marriage I thought I had, for the 18 years of memories that now felt poisoned. For the future I had imagined with a man who was, in reality, someone I never really knew. I don't know how long I sat on the floor, my back pressed against the bed, letting it all crash out of me. Eventually, the storm passed. Not into calm, but into clarity. A hollow, tentative quiet that somehow felt like a beginning. A soft knock at the door startled me. I checked the peephole, half expecting Logan ready to slam the door in his face. But it wasn't him. It was Jordan Blake, standing in the hallway, looking just as broken as I felt. I opened the door a few inches. Jordan? I'm sorry to bother you, he said, voice thick and worn. I couldn't go home, and I didn't know where else to go. I hesitated, then pulled the door open wider. At this point, professional boundaries felt irrelevant. After what we had just experienced, nothing about this was ordinary. How did you know where I was? I asked. The hotel. You mentioned crossing the street, he said with a tired shrug. There was only one real option. I asked the front desk if Ela Bennett had checked in. They just told you? I asked, surprised. I might have, implied I was your husband, he admitted, sheepishly. Sorry. Under different circumstances, I might have been concerned. But tonight, we were just two people, two strangers, bound together by the same betrayal. Come in, I said, stepping aside. I'm afraid I look like a mess. Jordan offered a small, sad smile. Join the club. His own eyes were red-rimmed, his face drawn. We sat in the two armchairs by the window, staring out at the shimmering skyline in silence. Did you know? He asked eventually. Before the dinner, I mean. Did you suspect? I thought about it. Honestly, a part of me did. Logan had been different, distant, but I didn't want to admit it. Jordan nodded slowly. Sienna's been working late a lot lately. Weekend girls' trips. I didn't question any of it. I trusted her completely. That's what makes it work, I said. They depend on that. They trade on our trust. What are you gonna do now? He asked. I exhaled slowly. Exactly what I said I'd do. I'm not taking him back. But 15 years, he said softly. Exactly, I replied. 15 years is exactly why. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It was a conscious decision to betray everything we built. And from what I saw in the texts, it's been almost a year. Jordan winced. A year. God. What about you? I asked gently. He ran a hand through his hair. I don't know. We've been married 7 years, no kids, thankfully. But still. You don't have to decide tonight. No, he agreed. But I know I can't unsee what I saw. The way she looked at him, it's burned into me. His voice cracked. I reached out without thinking and took his hand. A simple gesture. Human contact in the middle of all that pain. He left around midnight, heading back to his own hotel room. We talked for hours, not just about Logan and Sienna, but about everything. Our work, our pasts, the life we thought we'd built. Two strangers, unexpectedly connected by heartbreak. The next morning, I was woken by urgent knocking. Logan stood at the door, unshaven, still wearing the clothes from the night before. "Isla, please," he said, voice raw. "We need to talk." I let him in but kept my distance. "Did you come alone?" I asked, "or is Sienna waiting in the car?" He flinched. "It's over. I ended it last night. It was a mistake, the biggest mistake of my life. A year-long mistake," I replied. His eyes widened. "You knew?" "I saw everything, Logan. The messages, the weekend getaways dressed up as business trips, the apartment you were viewing together." He collapsed into the armchair. "It wasn't real. What I had with Sienna, it wasn't real. It was fantasy." "And that makes it better?" I asked. "No, of course not. But Isla, we had 18 years building something together. You can't just throw that away." "I didn't," I said, quiet but firm. "You did, with every lie, every time you chose her over me." "I'll do anything," he said, desperate. "Therapy, total transparency, anything. Whatever you need." I studied the man I'd loved for nearly 2 decades, trying to reconcile him with the person who had so systematically betrayed me. "What's really changed, Logan? You're not sorry you had the affair. You're sorry you got caught." "That's not true," he insisted. "I've been sick with guilt. I was going to end it." "When?" I challenged. "Before or after the trip to Cabo you booked for next month? Before or after the apartment you already put a deposit on?" His face collapsed under the weight of the truth. "How can I make this right?" he whispered. "You can't," I said simply. "Some things, once broken, can't be fixed. They can only be acknowledged and left behind." "You're really done with me?" His voice cracked with disbelief. "Just like that?" "No, Logan. Not just like that. After a year of you being done with me, while pretending otherwise, after learning that the man I built my life with is capable of sustained, deliberate deception." He tried another angle. "What about our friends, our families, the embarrassment of divorce?" "Embarrassment?" I cut in. "That's what you're worried about? Your reputation?" "Our reputation," he corrected. "We built a life together. People respect us, look up to us." I laughed, a dry, hollow sound. "Well, don't worry. I've already taken care of that." His expression shifted. "What?" "I called your mother this morning." Color drained from his face. "You didn't." "I did, and your sister, and Mark and Sarah. I told them exactly why I'm leaving you." "You had no right," he snapped. "No right to tell the truth." I shot back. "I spent years helping you build this flawless image, Logan, but I won't be the villain in your story now." He stood abruptly, anger flashing. "This isn't over. You're upset. You're not thinking clearly." "Actually," I said, standing too, "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. The locks will be changed by Monday. Take what you need from the house this weekend." "You can't just kick me out of my own home." "Our home," I corrected. "The one I helped design. The one I've paid half the mortgage on for 18 years. We'll figure out the finances later. But I'm not leaving." His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then quickly looked away. "Is that Sienna?" I asked. "Missing you already?" His silence was all the answer I needed. "Go," I said. "She needs you more than I do now." After he left, I sat in silence in my hotel room, expecting to feel broken. But I didn't. Instead, I felt something I hadn't expected. Relief. Not the kind that brings joy, but the quiet, sobering kind that settles in your bones when you finally stop carrying something too heavy for too long. It wasn't victory. It wasn't freedom. It was something slower, deeper. Peace. As if I had finally set down a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. My phone rang. "Jordan." "I just wanted to check on you," he said when I answered. "How are you holding up?" The sound of his voice, steady but unsure, softened something tight in my chest. In that moment, I realized healing wasn't loud. It was in the quiet moments when someone simply asks if you're okay. "Better than I thought I would," I admitted. "Logan came by. Sienna's been calling him nonstop." "You still haven't answered," Jordan said. "What will you do?" He sighed, shoulders sagging slightly. "I think I knew the answer last night. I deserve better than someone who can lie to my face, over and over with ease." "Yes," I said quietly, "you do." "Have you eaten?" he asked suddenly. I could really use a familiar face this morning. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were puffy. Yes, but clearer. I looked unburdened. "Breakfast sounds perfect," I said. The weeks that followed blurred into a haze of lawyers, mediators, and the painstaking division of a shared life. Logan didn't go quietly. He oscillated between pleading for reconciliation and accusing me of blowing one mistake out of proportion. but I stood my ground, anchored by a strength I hadn't known I possessed. Sienna moved away within a month, unable to withstand the social fallout in our tightly knit community. According to mutual friends, Logan tried to keep their relationship going for a while, but the fantasy crumbled quickly under the weight of real life. Jordan and I kept seeing each other, at first as emotional lifelines during our parallel divorces, later as genuine friends. There was comfort in knowing we didn't have to explain the pain, we simply understood. "I never thanked you properly," Jordan said one evening, 6 months after that unforgettable dinner at Alara. We were walking along the riverfront, the summer sunset casting golden streaks across the water. "For what?" I asked, "for having the courage to bring the truth to light, for not looking the other way." I paused to consider it. I didn't feel brave. I felt desperate. "Whatever you felt," he said gently, "you saved me from years of pretending. If it hadn't been for you, I might still be living a lie." It was strange how life's most painful chapters could yield such unexpected gifts. Through the unraveling of my marriage, I had rediscovered my resilience. I had rebuilt my sense of self. I had learned who my real friends were, the ones who didn't flinch when things got ugly. And I'd found Jordan, not as a replacement for what I'd lost, but as something entirely different, something grounded, burned. "Are you happy, Isla?" he asked as we stopped to watch a boat pass under the bridge. "Not always," I answered truthfully. "Some days I still mourn what I thought I had, the future I believed in." He nodded, understanding without needing to speak. "But mostly," I continued, "I'm grateful. For the truth, as painful as it was. For the chance to rebuild something real, rather than clinging to a comfortable illusion. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't seen that message. If I'd dismissed it, looked away, chosen comfort over truth. Would I still be living in that beautiful lie, believing everything was fine? That thought haunts me more than the betrayal itself. Because maybe, just maybe, I would have kept pretending." "To truth," he said, reaching for my hand. I thought of the version of me from a year ago, so sure of her place in the world, so blind to what was happening right under her nose. I thought of the woman sobbing alone in a hotel room, convinced her life was over. "You know what I learned?" I said. "We're stronger than we think. When everything falls apart, we don't have to fall with it." Jordan squeezed my hand. "No," he said, "we don't." Exactly 1 year after that night at Alara, I ran into Logan at a retirement party for a colleague. He looked older, tired around the eyes. We exchanged pleasantries, awkward but civil, before he pulled me aside. "I never really apologized," he said, voice low. "Not properly. I was too focused on saving myself." "And now?" I asked. "Now I know exactly what I lost," he said simply. "And I'm sorry, Isla. Truly sorry." Surprisingly, I felt no bitterness. "I hope you find happiness, Logan," I said softly. "You seem to think I have." He gave a faint nod. "You have," he said. He said it quietly, his gaze drifting across the room to where Jordan stood, laughing with a small group of faculty. "I'm building something new," I corrected, my voice soft but certain, "day by day." Later, as Jordan and I walked home beneath a quiet canopy of stars, I found myself reflecting on the strange, jagged path that had led us to this point. The pain we had endured, the illusions we'd been forced to shatter, the lives we thought we were living. "What are you thinking about?" Jordan asked gently. "How the worst night of my life somehow led me here," I replied. "How sometimes you have to lose everything to discover what you really needed all along." He stopped then, turning to face me, the streetlights reflected in his eyes. "I'm glad you reserved that table next to theirs," he said with a small smile. "So am I whispered. "Sometimes betrayal isn't the end of your story. Sometimes it's just the painful beginning of a better one."